What is a tax deed state? Welcome back. Now, this episode, I'm going to answer your question, what is a tax deed state? Now, my name is Ted Thomas. I've been involved in this for 30 years. The first 5 or so years, I was just doing investments, and then I slowly became a teacher and a person that could guide you and mentor you through learning tax liens and deeds. So this is going to be very interesting to you. Today, we're going to talk about tax deed states and what you need to know about them. Well, if a property owner fails to pay the property tax, what's going to happen is the local state have instructed the county to definitely collect the tax. If they can't collect the tax, to go ahead and confiscate, seize the property, and sell it at a public auction. So in half of the states in the United States, we call them tax deed states. Why? Because what they do is they have a process where they have instructed the treasurer to confiscate and have a tax deed auction. Simply, that means the treasurer is going to confiscate the property. They're going to sell it at a public auction. Usually it's sold at very close to the back taxes with no mortgage. That's called a tax defaulted auction, and they issue a tax deed on the property. In other words, when you get the property, you get a tax deed or a treasurer's deed issued to you. So that's why they call it a tax deed state. Now, the other half of the states, which I'm not going to cover on this video, sell tax lien certificates. Now, there's plenty of other videos on this channel so you can learn about tax liens also. All right, so in the United States, we have 3,000 counties. Approximately half of those counties will sell tax deeds, so we call them tax deed states. That means those states are very severe in their foreclosure and taking of the property. That means they will take the property by an act of the treasurer doing a tax defaulted auction. Now, this is a business of abundance. This has been going on for well over 200 years. Now, stay tuned. I'll tell you about mistakes people make. I'll be right back. Okay, what is a tax deed state? Well, it's a state where the property owner did not pay the taxes. So the state will go through a legal process. First of all, the legislature makes the rules. They tell the treasurer of the county what to do. The treasurer is mandated to levy the tax, then try to collect the tax. If they can't collect the tax, then they're going to put the property owner in default. And the property owner in the United States, you're allowed to do anything you want with property you own, but there's one thing you have to do. You have to pay taxes. They don't mind you renting the property. They don't mind you using agriculture on it. You can put a high-rise office rent. You can do just about anything you want with the property, but one thing is you must pay property tax. If you don't pay property tax, the tax deed state will confiscate your property. They'll have the county do that. They'll confiscate your property, and when they do that, they don't want any more property. They're going to put it on the auction block. They want to get rid of it. And what do they want to get rid of it for? They want the revenue. So instead of trying to mark it up to market value, they sell it at very close to the back taxes. So tax deed states are very good if you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of a maverick, you want to get properties for 60, 70, 80% discounts without mortgage. That's why you want to look at the tax deed states. Now, in the tax lien states, we talk about them being benevolent, we talk about security, but now we're talking about actual properties being sold at auction in a tax deed state, and the prices start at very close to the back taxes. Now, many of these delinquent property owners may have just moved away and not given notice, and the tax bill isn't getting to them. But that doesn't matter to the tax collector. It's the property owner's responsibility to take care of their property. Now, sometimes someone will pass on, and then the relatives don't know what to do with the property, so they don't do anything, and it ends up on the auction block. In a tax deed state, they're going to confiscate, they're going to seize that property, and they're going to do it in a short period of time. Now, some states like Texas, they're going to give people 180 days. Other states might give more time, but the problem is, if you're a property owner, you either take care of your property or you could lose it easily at a tax auction. All right, now where are all these tax monies going? Well, the tax money that's due really keeps the government running. So the local government, whether it's Harris County in Houston or it's Los Angeles County or whether it's Baltimore County, it doesn't matter which one, they all have county employees. They all have bills to pay. For example, school teachers. Someone has to pay the sheriff and the police department. Someone has to make sure the firefighter. Well, that's the county. The county does all that, and that's only a few of the bills they have to pay. So they're going to get that money from tax money. So if property taxes go unpaid, what's going to happen, they're going to have an alarm bell go off at the county, and the county's going to start issuing notice. Now, those are legal notices. They send them out registered mail, certified mail. And in some cases, they'll even have a sheriff deputy deliver those notices. And the notices tell the property owner, this is the consequence. If you do not pay the tax, we will not only seize the property, but we will evict you from the property. That means boot them out. And then they will sell the property at a public auction. All of this is done to the public. All of it's done following exacting rules so that everybody has been given notice. So if property taxes are unpaid, the local government needs the money. They're going to do something right now. Now, some of these auctions have hundreds of properties. For example, a county that has a high population could have 200 or 400 properties. I've been to Los Angeles, and they'll have 2,500 properties at some of the auctions. People didn't pay the taxes. So think about that. So that's a lot of opportunity for the entrepreneur and the person that wants to get in this business and really make some money. All right, so the local county isn't wasting this money. This local county is paying a handful of employees, plus they're keeping the schools going, they're making the roads work okay, they're taking care of the library. So 3,000 counties across the USA, think about it. Half of them will sell tax liens. I'll cover that on another video. And then half of them will sell tax deeds. The tax deed counties, and that's where it comes from. That's why they call them tax deed states. Those are property auctions that will take place, and they're going to take place. You can't stop the auction except by doing one thing. And what you have to do is you have to pay those taxes. Now, what happens when you pay taxes? A lot of winners, okay? A lot of winners when you pay taxes. If you're the property owner, you pay the taxes, the county's super happy they got the money, all right? So they're going to be happy. You're going to be happy because you keep your property. A little bit different than the tax lien states, but we're not covering those today. All right, now it's not unusual for people to buy 2 years back taxes, which might only be $5,000. Well, if you could get a house for $5,000 without a mortgage, you would be pretty happy. So all tax lien and tax deed auctions, when they take place, the county, by law, wipes out the mortgage. Now, what do I mean wipe out the mortgage? They take it right off the property records. They wipe the property record clean. There's no mortgage. They also wipe out many other encumbrances. So now you're buying properties for pennies on the dollar. And I'm talking about 60, 70, 80% discounts. Imagine that, 80% discount, and there's no mortgage. This is the way to buy property. You can beat the pants out of everybody because they don't have any clue on what we're doing. So imagine you getting a $100,000 property and you're buying it for $5,000 or even $10,000, and all you're doing is paying the back taxes, and you now have a property without a mortgage. That's going to give you a lot of room between the purchase price and the market value. All right, now I'm going to cover this more in depth in other videos, so just understand that tax liens are much different than tax deeds. A lien is just a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper. The owner maintains possession. You don't get possession. When you buy a tax deed, what you're going to do is you're going to bid in an auction, and you will receive a deed to the property. You will now be the owner of the property. However, it will not have a mortgage. Now I'm going to finish by answering two questions. What happens if there's no bids at the auction? The county can do a number of things. First thing they'll do, generally, is they will hold off and have another auction. Some treasurers, like I was sitting in auction rooms for one day, I was sitting in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and the auctioneer just stopped the auction. He said, folks, everything we don't sell today, if you come back in 42 days, we'll start the auction at $100. So instead of starting at the back taxes, now they're going to start at $100. So the reason I tell you that is because the treasurer can do anything they want in that room. They've been given an authorization from the state and the county and the board of commissioners or board of supervisors to do whatever they want. So the auction can change immediately right there. So at an auction, you could get a heck of a good deal. But the point is, these auctions are all auctions to get money for the county, and they wipe out mortgages. What type of deed do you get? You could get it. There's many different kinds of deeds that they could get. If they issue you a quitclaim deed, which I have other videos on that, I didn't say quick claim. I said quit, Q-U-I-T. That means it's over, quit claim. That deed is a deed to you. Now, that has a lot of challenges with a quit claim deed. I'm not going to cover it now, but I will cover it. Or they could give you a treasurer's deed. But in all cases, when the county's going to sell you a property, they are going to sell you a property, and they're going to put restrictions in that sale. And the restriction is going to be that they're going to disclaim, I said the word disclaim, any responsibility. So later on, we'll have classes on quiet title and quitclaim and things like that. And they'll all be within the series on this channel. I talked earlier about two mistakes that investors make. Not only newcomers make them, but experienced investors do the same thing. So I'd like to see you be able to avoid these two mistakes. And what are they? They're at the auction. And what people do at the auction is they get all excited, they start bidding, but they haven't looked at the property. If you haven't looked at the property, you could end up with a chicken farm. I don't think you'd want that property. You can end up with a property that's been damaged in a hurricane. What if there was a fire? The point is, don't buy what you haven't seen. I always say to my female investors, look, you wouldn't marry the guy if you hadn't seen him. Certainly don't buy a property if you hadn't seen it. So that's it, mistake number one. Mistake number two is almost the same thing. People get to the auction, they got lots of excitement, they're determined that they're going to make money, and so they start bidding. Well, you don't want to just look at a number on a list and start bidding. You want to have looked at the property, like I just mentioned, but you also want to have planned what are you going to do with that property. So I call that the exit strategy. What is your exit strategy? You don't want to just start bidding to win the auction and bid high. If you do that, where are you going to end up? Well, you'll end up owning something at a high price. Well, you can't sell at high prices. That's not going to work. Those two mistakes at auctions you want to try to avoid. Now, I have a gift for you. It's right below me. It's absolutely free. You can just sign up and register, and you'll receive that gift. And what will happen is you'll get information on how to make money with tax lien certificates and tax defaulted property. So just sign up below.